exchange and traffic and collegiality. And so welcome if you're a TTRPG veteran. If you're just a curious educator, maybe you've never played a tabletop role-playing game before, but you're interested in new ways of engaging your students or teaching and learning. Tabletop RPGs are having a moment culturally. They're becoming sort of ascendant. There's been just this surge of interest. Interest in D&D has risen by 85% since the pandemic.
But this is definitely a way that people are coming together and making and keeping friendships as adults, right? And it's really neat to see.
I will say, and I get into this in a second, unlike some other popular cultural moments or phenomenon, TTRPGs have a steep learning curve. And so, unlike, picking up a video game, education's also having a moment. In the US, we're facing a lot of headwinds. It's a tough time to be in education, K-12 or higher ed. Again, post-pandemic, it just feels like it's been harder to reach students. There's a relevancy, right? All of a sudden,
Yes.
perhaps, and it's something to do with that identity work, that powerful identity work that we're going to get into that TTRPGs offer students who maybe don't feel seen or a part of something or valued, but in the game fiction, in a shared game fiction with this alternate identity, and education wasn't preparation for life or a career, but education is life itself. And so if when you flip the script, when you turn the tables and you put the students in charge, what it changes things dramatically. I invite you into the revolution. Welcome to the movement. In what I think of as a disruptive in a good way development in critical and progressive pedagogy. It's to sort of define what are tabletop RPGs and understand them as a unique analog, social, and flexible learning tool. They're not just static story, but they're participatory storytelling where participants shape that world in real time. They're working on service projects. They're involved in, solving problems that were facing the community. Real work, real problems.
Super hard to coordinate a field trip to kill the dragon.
There's been a ton of research on video games and learning. Probably the last 20 years, there's been loads of money, particularly from like Silicon Valley and other wealthy groups pouring money into researching how video games help learning. And it's very well established now that certain video games are very good at creating certain kinds of learning. If you want to help students develop literacy skills, information literacy skills, research skills, having pen and paper and books is going to be much more helpful for them in terms of learning how to sort through complexity. It's highly social, much more social than most video games are, particularly like having to have kids or people sit around a table for hours at a time in some cases. It's perhaps the most intensely social thing. We see it, I would argue, in modern society. Where else do you see a small group of people or friends being in such close proximity and working in such close concert for such a concentrated amount of time?
Gamification um, has gotten a pretty bad rap. It's been taken over by uh, companies who really just want to get educators to spend money. And so there may be some gamification purists out there who are still fighting the good fight.
And so we want to make sure that one of the key ideas here is play. And so that play, this is sort of the thing that happens often with gamification, is that we lose the actual fun,
Right.
there's not actually a real interesting or deep or fun or playful game under the hood of all that gamification. Even still today, people are like, well, we don't have time for this silliness. Our students are naturally drawn to this game. They want to play it because it's fun and fascinating.
And so just because something's a game and there's an inherent attraction doesn't mean everyone's going to be good at it right away. And that's another thing that people will sometimes say is, well, what if they don't want to do it? Like, well, they don't want to take tests either, but here we are, right? It's really, really satisfying when you see kids who at first are worried to do that because that's not a thing that happens to them in a middle school setting.